ladies and gentlemen, to the She Knows Pro Football podcast. Once again, I'm Alice, aka the NFL Girl. And once again, I got my good friend Dominick here with me. Dominick, how you doing today?
Alice, I'm not doing too bad. We had another crazy week last week. There was a lot of upsets again. I did pick the Colts over the Chiefs, but there are some other crazy upsets as well. So let's see if we can have a normal week this week.
Let's see if we can have some good games this week. Last Sunday night football game was so trash. I cannot even speak on it positively at all, and it included my team. So I'm hoping this week we have some much better games, much better outcomes. So let's get started. Starting with our Thursday night matchup, we got the 3-0 Miami Dolphins headed to Cincinnati to face the 1-2 Bengals. Dominick, who you got?
It should be a really good game. We saw the Bengals get their first win last week against the Jets, although, it was the Jets. Miami played pretty bad, actually, against the Bills, but they were still able to pull out the game. Josh Allen threw for 63 attempts. He had 400 yards on those 63 attempts. The Bills as a team had over 500 yards compared to the Dolphins, who had less than 300 yards, but they were still able to pull out the victory on a very hot day there. Tua did get hurt. They say it's back spasms. It feels more like it was the back of his head, actually. But we'll see what happens with him if he's able to play in this game. It looks like he should be able to play. But either way, after a hard-fought battle against the Bills, after a week before having that hard-fought comeback win against the Baltimore Ravens, I think even though Miami's the only undefeated AFC team right now, I don't think they will be after this Thursday. And I do think that somehow the Bengals are going to be able to pull this thing out behind Joe Burrow.
I'm so happy that the Bengals finally got their first win of the season. I was really starting to be concerned about them. Everybody keeps harping on that Super Bowl hangover and blah, blah, blah. And they really didn't have an excuse because everybody was still healthy. So it wasn't like we're talking about, Joe Burrow had gone down or Joe Mixon was missing time or anything like that. It just, they couldn't get their shit together on the O-line or the D-line, which seemed to be the biggest concern. Miami, meanwhile, has been riding through teams. I did not see them being able to beat the Bills. I didn't call that game at all. I just knew that the Bills were going to easily get the win there. This combination of Tua and Tyreek, this combination of Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, they're incredible. They're fun to watch. And then every so often you get some good Mike Gesicki plays because he's one of the best tight ends in the league. And I'm biased because I always have him every year in fantasy. The problem with the Dolphins right now, to me, is going to be my concern with the health of Tua. I know that they said it was a back issue. I still believe that it was a concussion issue. I can't dispute what they're going to call it or whatever. If he does play, I'll still be concerned about his health. And with that concern, it makes it hard for me to pick. And I think Bengals might have finally figured out how to get back in the win column. So I'm going to take the Bengals here, in particular because they're at home. Moving on to Sunday, we got our first London game, you guys. We got the 2-1 Minnesota Vikings facing off with the 1-2 New Orleans Saints. Dominick, who you got?
Alvin Kamara does not look like he's himself right now. Michael Thomas missed practice today, as did Jarvis Landry, so both of them might be out. Winston also missed practice today, but he said he's going to play. Even though I'm a Saints fan, I can't pick the Saints in this game. The Vikings are just a better team with Justin Jefferson. We'll see if Dalvin Cook plays in this game. He did dislocate his shoulder last week, but he wants to sling it up and put it in a harness. Last time he did that was against Pittsburgh last year. He ran for over 200 yards in that game, so he could do the same here, although the Saints defense is much, much better than their offense. The only thing we need to worry about here is that Kirk Cousins' body clock may get confused and think it's 9:30 p.m. instead of 9:30 a.m. and we'll get primetime Kirk. But as long as that doesn't happen, which I don't think it will, I do expect the Vikings to win this game.
Something is terribly off with the Saints. Is it Ingram? Is it Alvin Kamara? Is it it's Jameis Winston you're always going to have question marks with. Michael Thomas is injured this week. There's a lot of question marks surrounding the Saints, and I'm still not comfortable just yet on that they're going to have a phenomenal season, and I'm very concerned here with them in London. Vikings, meanwhile, I'll never be comfortable with Kirk Cousins. I've said this a million times or whatever, but that being said, they have great receivers. They have Adam Thielen. They have Justin Jefferson. You got Dalvin Cook in the backfield. So long as he has great weapons, it'll disguise the fact that he's not a great QB. And the defense has been playing well. I want the Saints to get a win here, but I have a feeling at the end of the day, the Vikings are going to pull this one out. Next up, we got the 2-1 Cleveland Browns headed to Atlanta to face the 1-2 Falcons. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, this is probably going to be a closer game than most people expect. Everybody thought Atlanta was going to be terrible coming into this year. They've actually been pretty good. They should be 3-0 if they didn't give up that first game to the Saints in the fourth quarter. They were able to beat Seattle on the road last week. They have a great offense, at least when it comes to scoring points. They have a terrible defense when it comes to giving up points. So this game should be a high-scoring game. We'll have to see what happens with Cleveland. I don't expect their defense to be able to do much, especially I don't know if Myles Garrett's going to play in this game after his scary crash the other day. Hopefully he's out of the hospital, which is good. Hopefully, and there's no life-threatening injuries, but hopefully he is, safe and able to come back, if not this week, next week. But Atlanta has no run defense whatsoever. So this is going to be a big Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt game. So with that, I do think that Cleveland's going to be able to go down there. It's going to be a close game, but I think Cleveland's going to be able to pull it out in the end.
Kyle Pitts has looked pretty good this season, but it's Marcus Mariota, and Marcus Mariota has only looked decent this season. They have one of the better kickers in the league. I'll give them that, but their defense is still garbage. Meanwhile, the Browns, I'm always going to love Nick Chubb and what he can do. And I love the fact that if Nick Chubb goes out, they can always bring in Kareem Hunt. As much as I didn't want the Cleveland Browns to be winning at this point, they're looking pretty good. I'm hoping that creates a controversy later for them for obvious reasons. That being said, I just don't see a way for the Falcons to be able to get a win. They're just not a good team, in particular on this defense, where I think that the Browns are pretty solid. Even if Myles Garrett can't play due to some of the minor injuries that he suffered in the accident, the rest of that defense will be able to step up in place of him, and I think that they'll be okay. So I'm taking the Browns in this game. Next up, we got the 1-2 Washington Commanders headed to Dallas to face the 2-1 Cowboys. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, Les Cooper Rush looked really good on Monday night against the Giants. Ezekiel Elliott really hasn't done a whole lot, but Washington's defense really hasn't done a whole lot this year either, especially without Chase Young being there. He's still going to be out this week again. We'll have to see what CeeDee Lamb does. He had a terrible drop last week, but they were still able to get the victory. I don't think that they're going to be able to stop him. They're not going to be able to stop Cooper Rush again. Like I said, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard in the backfield, I think are going to be very good, even behind that suspect defensive offensive line. Washington, I don't trust Carson Wentz. He looked terrible last week, giving up 9 sacks or getting sacked 9 times against the Philadelphia Eagles, against his old team. Washington comes into this game, but I don't think they're going to walk out the victorious. I think they're going to walk out with a loss. I think Micah Parsons is probably going to get 2 or 3 sacks on Carson Wentz in this game.
Dallas has found some kind of magic hoodoo or something with Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush is looking really good starting for them. And that's saying something for this team, considering that in week 1, CeeDee Lamb, there was concerns about CeeDee Lamb. There was concerns that he had not become a true WR1. And if you saw that game last week, those concerns went away. There is something going on with Cooper Rush and CeeDee Lamb that is looking really good finally. And I'm hoping that they stay with that, in particular because we're not seeing anything really impressive out of Ezekiel Elliott right now. That defense is solid because Micah Parsons is just a beast all by himself. Commanders, meanwhile, can't get it kicking on all cylinders. Part of that obviously is that O-line because Carson Wentz is getting pancaked every single week. It is ridiculous at this point. Going there to Dallas, facing the Cowboys, and what this magic is that they have going on right now, absolutely got to take the Cowboys here. Next up, we got the 1-2 Seattle Seahawks headed to Detroit to face the 1-2 Lions. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, Seattle comes into this game after losing to Atlanta last week. They're not a great team, but they're better than many expected. Geno Smith has actually looked really good. He's had a good connection with Tyler Lockett and with DK Metcalf so far this year. But I really like what this Detroit team can do. If they can find any form of defense, they're going to be very good. We'll have to see, what Amon-Ra St. Brown can do. He's a little injured right now with his ankle, but it does look like he's going to play. He really wants to play in this game. He's trying to prove everybody wrong, and it looks like right now he's doing that. Jared Goff has looked solid this year. The only thing is we just got a notification that it looks like DeAndre Swift will be out this week for a minimum. So it looks like they're not going to have him, but they'll still have some room in the backfield with Jamal Williams. They'll have a player back there, which is good. Jeffrey Okudah, after being taken number 4 overall 2 years ago from Ohio State, he's been a bust for the first 2 years. He's actually been really good this year, so he'll be able to either clamp down on DK Metcalf or more likely Tyler Lockett in this game. We'll see what happens there. So I do, even though Detroit isn't going to have DeAndre Swift in this game, they do have, like I said, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I do like a little bit of what they're doing on that defense. Their offensive line is really good, so that'll open up some holes for Jamal Williams. So I am going to take the Detroit Lions to win their second game of the year over Seattle.
Seattle pulled off a miraculous win in week 1, and they haven't done a damn thing since. And I can't tell you what the difference is, but whatever it was that, I guess I feel like Geno had something to prove, and it was to Russell Wilson and to the Seattle faithful. And I guess he got it done. And since then, they haven't done a damn thing. And they have looked terrible week to week. Lions, to me, always feel like they're just like one more play away from getting a win. Or one last kick, one last touchdown, one last something, and the time runs out on them. Like they'll have 90 seconds left in the game, and somehow they end up losing it. And I feel like this time that they have a better shot. I know Amon-Ra is hurt right now. I know they're without DeAndre Swift, but I just have faith in Jared Goff right now and the magic that they're having there with this team. Great head coach. Like what I'm saying, I think that they can get it done, and I absolutely think they'll get it done this week. So I'm taking the Lions in this game. Next up, we got the 1 and 2 Tennessee Titans headed to Indianapolis to face the 1 and 1 Colts. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, this game has been very lopsided in the past 2 years. Tennessee's won 3 out of 4 of these matchups by almost 20. Each matchup's been by about 20 points, except for one. The Colts win was only by 3 points. So it's a very lopsided matchup in the past 2 years. But I do think that the Colts finally may have found something last week. Their defense played better against the Chiefs. They're playing at home again, which they did last week as well. I think Tennessee is still trying to find themselves, although they did have their first 3 drives last week, all went for over 75 yards. Ryan Tannehill looked really good. Derrick Henry started looking good as well. We'll have to see if they can get Traylon Burks involved here. But I do think that the Colts, just being that they are at home, I do think that this year, at least, they are the better team. So I'm going to take the Colts to win their second in a row.
Titans finally got Derrick Henry off the mat, and he looked really good last week. But the biggest concern still with me when it comes to the Titans is I don't know what's going on as far as Ryan Tannehill. He's got to get his receivers more involved in this game. We can't lean all on Derrick Henry. Teams that have realized that they're going to go to Derrick Henry on every play have learned that they can just shut him down, and that's it for them. And that's what's happened previously, and they finally got something done with the numbers last week. Meanwhile, the Colts got a win. They look good in their win. I ended up liking what I saw out of Matt Ryan. That win last week was very impressive. Kudos to Dominick for picking that, because there's no way I would have believed they could beat the Chiefs, but something is going on there. There's a spark there with them. I'm hoping that they can capitalize on that. Always, these two teams play each other tough because they're division rivals. At the end of the day, with Colts being at home again, trying to build upon that magic they had last week, I definitely can see them getting it done. I'm taking the Colts here. Next up, we got the 2 and 1 Chicago Bears headed to New York to face the 2 and 1 Giants. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, to quote a podcast I was listening to earlier, this is going to be a matchup of the 2 worst 2-1 teams in NFL history. Neither of these teams are very good, although Saquon Barkley has been playing a lot better this year. Looks like he's back. The Bears have won their games with a lot of smoke and mirrors. They played in a monsoon against San Francisco in week 1. They beat the Texans last week, which is its own travesty. They obviously, the only real team they played in balanced conditions was Green Bay, and they got torched there. The Giants lost their first game against Dallas this past week on Monday night. I think they'll probably win this game just because I do think that they are better than the Bears. I just think that Saquon is Barkley than anybody that the Bears have. I don't know if David Montgomery is going to be back for this game. If he's not, Khalil Herbert will be in there, and that's going to be tough going against the Giants defense, which actually played pretty solid against Cooper Rush and the Cowboys last week. So I am going to take the Giants in this game to win their 3rd game of the year.
I like Justin Fields. I know I say that every week, but I'm just not seeing enough out of this offense. In particular, with David Montgomery being hurt, that's really hurt them significantly. The O-line is still garbage. I wish they would address that. Every year they say they are. Every year we still running into the same problem, and poor Justin Fields is running for his life. Giants caught an L last week, a shocking L, I guess, but, not so much. It's a division rival playing in their home, but they still are doing pretty well. It's going to hurt them, the loss of Sterling Shepard, but so long as they have Saquon there, they will be able to continue to do something. I'm hoping we'll see more out of Galladay, or I don't know. Somebody has to step up now that we've lost Sterling Shepard for this year. This is going to be a tough one for me because I don't think either one of them have great O-lines. I don't think they're necessarily going to wow you in this game. It'll be a low-scoring game, but I'm going to take the Giants here. They're at home. Next up, we got the 2 and 1 Jacksonville Jaguars headed to Philly to face the 3 and 0 Eagles. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, who would have thought that when this game was on the schedule, we would have said that this could be the best game of the entire weekend in week 4. Jacksonville looks really good right now. They flopped in week 1 against Washington. Otherwise, they would be undefeated as well. The Eagles are the last NFC team to be undefeated. They have the best offense right now in the NFC. They have one of the best defenses in the NFC as well, which is great to see with this offense. Their issue is the past 2 weeks, even though they've dominated both games, they have not scored 1 point in the second half. They're going to have to change that here. We saw what Jacksonville could do last week on offense, putting up 38 points against the Chargers. Yes, Joey Bosa got hurt during the game, and Justin Herbert was injured, obviously, in the game. He had the broken ribs that he was playing with. But even with those players there, I do think that Jacksonville would just look dominant last week, and they were going to win no matter what. They could do the same thing here, but I think that Doug Peterson coming home to Philadelphia, he said he's hoping to get a standing ovation. Talking to my family who's all Eagles fans, they said they would definitely give him one. He did get him a Super Bowl, and there's no hard feelings there. That doesn't mean that they're going to want him to win the game, though, and I don't think they're going to. I think the defense is going to be able to clamp down, and I think Jacksonville is going to take a loss here, although I think it'll be close. I think it'll be high scoring, but I can see the Eagles winning here like 30-27 or 30-24.
I love the Jaguars under Doug Peterson. I think Doug Peterson has unlocked something in Trevor Lawrence. And I guess part of that is he has more faith, more confidence, more belief in his QB, and he's letting his QB really show the talent that he actually has, which is something that I feel like Urban Meyer kind of stifled last year. We're also seeing a hell of a lot out of James Robinson. Go James Robinson. Very happy for you. Even though it hurts me because I'm not seeing anything out of Travis Etienne, I'm very happy for James Robinson coming back and doing as well as he is this season. Good seeing Marvin Jones down there catching balls and getting touchdowns. This is a fun young team, and I love watching them, but they're going against Philly. And Philly right now, this combination, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith have it going on right now and look spectacular. And on top of that, their defense is playing damn well. They are a really solid team on both sides of the ball. Jaguars are going to put up points. Doug Peterson has something to prove to these Philly fans. He has something, he wants to show that he can stay on the winning side of things, but I don't think he gets it done here. Even though it's going to be close, way closer than I think people are anticipating because of the way he has this squad playing. But at the end of the day, the way that Philly is playing on both sides of the ball, can't give it to them. Definitely taking the Eagles here at home. Next up, we got the 1 and 2 New York Jets headed to Pittsburgh to face the 1 and 2 Steelers. Dominick, who you got?
Sadly enough, Zach Wilson is going to be back for this game. Robert Saleh announced this morning. That said, being that it's his first game back, I would feel better about the Jets here if they had Joe Flacco in this game. Pittsburgh's not great, especially without TJ Watt there, but they still have Minkah Fitzpatrick. He is probably the best safety in the league right now. Derwin James has something to say about that, but they're both right up there. Mitchell Trubisky has actually been playing better than expected. Hopefully Najee Harris is fully healthy for this game. The Jets defense is just terrible. DeAndre Johnson should have a big game here. I think Trubisky's probably going to have a big game. It may be low scoring and maybe an ugly game, but I do think Pittsburgh's going to be able to beat the Jets in this one in Zach Wilson's return.
Don't like the fact that Zach Wilson is back. I know that's terrible to say because he is their starting QB or whatever, but I'm not confident in this kid. And the kid has not shown me anything for me to believe that I should be sold on him. The Steelers, they still got question marks. Is Mitchell Trubisky truly a QB1? I haven't seen it yet, but he's doing just enough. Again, he has great receivers there. Najee, I hope Najee is fully healthy. I'm hoping, again, I know I say it every week. I'm beating the drum on wanting to see more out of Chase Claypool and wanting to see more out of Deontay Johnson. I'm hoping they get it done. Defense has still been solid. They're 1 and 2 right now. They know they got to get to 500. Definitely got to take the Steelers here. Don't see a way for the Jets with Zach Wilson to get it done. Next up, we got the 2 and 1 Buffalo Bills headed to Baltimore to face the 2 and 1 Ravens. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, this would have been probably the best game of the week if not for the weather. It looks like Hurricane Ian, obviously, it just hit Florida. It's powering up, but it's going to be up in the Baltimore area by Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Obviously, this game is on Sunday, which leads me towards the Ravens because they're going to be able to run the ball much better than the Bills can. The Bills have no idea how to run the ball yet other than Josh Allen. If this game was in perfect weather, I would take the Bills here by a ton. The last 7 victories they have overall, they won all of them by at least 11 points. Their 2 victories this year have both been by at least 20 points. Going back to last year, their last victory last year in the playoffs was by 30 points against the Patriots. So when they beat teams, they dominate them. So if you want to bet on the Ravens here, just bet on money line because it's not going to be close. It's going to be one way or the other. With the weather, not knowing what that's going to be, I'm going to assume it's going to be at least decent weather. So I'm going to take the Bills here. I think they're going to win by probably at least 10 points, maybe 2 touchdowns. But if it is raining here, I would definitely change my pick and pick the Ravens because they're just going to run the ball, and milk the clock, and they'll be just frustrating the Bills like Miami did last week. But not knowing on the weather, I'm going to take the Bills in this one.
Bills, I feel like, has something to prove because they took an L when they were hoping to take a win, in particular on that last little play of the game that sent Ken Dorsey off into a fit and became a meme because of what happened. I think that they have something to prove. They are furious at losing last week, in particular the way that they did it. The Ravens, again, looking good. Love Lamar. Lamar has something to prove because Lamar wants to get a long-term contract. And the only way he's going to do that is if he stays healthy and plays his ass off. So far, he has done that in every way possible. And I like what I'm seeing out of him this season. But again, like I said, the Bills have something to prove. The way they took that L last week was so horrible. And I think that they want to turn that around and really put a stomping on the Ravens. I think it's going to be a close game because these are two pretty much evenly matched teams on both sides of the ball, in particular on that defense. So at the end of the day, it's going to be close, but I think I'm going to give this one to the Bills. Next up, we got the 1 and 2 Los Angeles Chargers headed to Houston to face the 0-2 and 1 Texans. Dominick, who you got?
This game should not be close, Alice, but with the injuries the Chargers have right now, they're going to have Storm Norton playing left tackle for the rest of the year. He basically played worse left tackle than I could have last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars after Rashawn Slater went out for the year now with a torn bicep. Justin Herbert's still going to have issues with his ribs. He'll play, but he's still going to be hurting. They're not going to have Joey Bosa in this game either, who's week to week with a severe groin injury. With all that said, they are still the better team. Keenan Allen is going to be back for this game, so they're going to have Keenan Allen along with Austin Eckler, who needs to get going, and Mike Williams. So just because their offense, even with Justin Herbert there, it's still going to be a very good offense. So I am going to take the Chargers to win this game, but I do think it's going to be close.
Texans need to get into the win column. They have Davis Mills at QB, but I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing flashes of something, but they're still not getting in the win column yet. What is that? Gotta be that defense. I've been telling people that all along. And they have no O-line to protect Davis Mills. It's become an issue. Chargers, meanwhile, they're going to have problems with that O-line because of that injury, and that's going to be an issue for Justin Herbert because of these ribs. That being said, he still has Keenan Allen's going to be back. He has Mike Williams on the other side. He has Austin Eckler in the backfield. They will be fine. He might not be able to throw you the really deep pass all the way down the field. If he has to dink and duck his way down the field, he'll get it done. Definitely taking the Chargers in this game. Next up, we got the 1 and 2 Arizona Cardinals headed to Carolina to face the 1 and 2 Panthers. Dominick, who you got?
Arizona always plays bad when they come across the country. I don't know what it is. They just seem to not come east very well, even as well as other teams do coming from the West Coast. But Carolina is a bad team right now. Baker Mayfield's not playing up to what he did his rookie year. He's playing more like he did his second year, which is not good. DJ Moore has a touchdown this year, which is shocking. He's only had 4 every year of his career so far, so I don't expect him to get a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey finally had over 100 yards rushing last week. He had 108 yards. He's going to have to do that again in this game. I just think that Kyler Murray's going to be too much. Neither of these defenses are very good, but I trust Kyler Murray a little bit more than I do Baker Mayfield to be able to go up against the opposing team's defense. Even though they're coming across country and they never play well, the fact this is a 4:00 game makes it easier for them to come across country. So I'm going to take Arizona in this game to beat Carolina.
I don't know what's going on with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. I guess I do, because the answer to that question is Baker Mayfield. And when you have great receivers but a terrible QB, you're not going to get anything done. They're going to have to lean entirely too much on Christian McCaffrey, who is injury prone. And thank God right now he's healthy, and I'm hoping he stays healthy all season long this year, knock on wood. But having to rely so heavily on him, teams know that all they got to do is double and triple cover him and stifle that. He's been able to get the numbers, but he's not going to be able to keep them getting on the scoreboard. Their defense is trash. Cardinals, meanwhile, the biggest issue for Kyler Murray is the fact that he does not have DeAndre Hopkins there. He's still managing to get it done, mainly on scramble plays, and I appreciate that this kid can run. Sometimes he got to run for his life. That just is what it is. I know that they typically don't do well when they come across the country. I know that, but it's Carolina. And Carolina right now cannot fix these problems that they have on their offense, and there's too many holes in their defense. Got to take the Cardinals in this game. Next up, we got the 1 and 2 New England Patriots headed to Green Bay to face the 2 and 1 Packers. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to make this one short and sweet. Aaron Rodgers against Brian Hoyer. I'll take Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, there's nothing else really to say there. Packers are looking good. I didn't think I would see anything out of Allen Lazard, and I'm actually seeing something out of Allen Lazard. Aaron Jones is phenomenal, and then they got A.J. Dillon. Can't say anything really good about the Patriots and the way that they're playing right now. Definitely got to take the Packers. In particular, they're at home. Next up, we got the 2-1 Denver Broncos headed to Las Vegas to face the 0-3 Raiders. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, Denver's another one of these teams that's 2-1, but what are they really? We have no clue what they are. They've won their last two games, but they've won them ugly. As you said at the beginning of the show, the game against San Francisco last week was just atrocious. They had 10 punts in the game. It was just crazy. They wouldn't have won, obviously, unless Jimmy Garoppolo hadn't stepped out of the back of the end zone and gotten the safety there. Otherwise, they would have lost by a point instead of winning by a point. It was just a crazy game. It was an ugly game. I think the Raiders being 0-3, their back is against the wall here. They had a closed door meeting between the owner and the head coach already. That's not a good sign. I don't know if he told him if he loses another game, they're going to bring John Gruden back to help him out. But whatever it is, it's going to work. And I do think that the Raiders are going to finally get their first win of the season against the Broncos in this one.
Broncos are looking horrible. They are looking terrible. There are question marks coming up every single week. Is it Nathaniel Hackett or is it Russell Wilson? Is a 33-year-old Russell Wilson washed up, or is it because Nathaniel Hackett has no effing clue what he's doing as a head coach? I think he's way in over his head. I think Russell Wilson is looking timid out there, and they're making horrible mistakes, and they're having ridiculous play calls that make no sense whatsoever. They won last week by the skin of their teeth on some fluky, stupid play that had nothing at all to do with them and the way that they're playing. This team is trash right now. Meanwhile, the Raiders, some of the losses have been perplexing, to say the least, in some cases. I know that they got the pieces there. I know that they got Josh Jacobs. I know the addition of Devontae Adams has been great for Derek Carr. They just haven't been able to capitalize and get in the win column. I know that that's going to change this week. They have a fire lit under their butt now. I think that meeting between the head coach and the owner is going to make a difference. They are ready to finally show people what it is they have, and I don't think the Broncos have an answer for it. The loss of Justin Simmons is significant in the secondary for the Broncos, and I see Devontae Adams being able to get behind that secondary, giving this game to the Raiders. Next up, we got the 2-1 Kansas City Chiefs headed to Tampa, hopefully, to face the 2-1 Buccaneers. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, I don't know where this game's going to be played. Right now, Tampa Bay is practicing in Miami. They're hoping that the game's going to be able to be in Tampa Bay, but they might actually have to play the game in Miami, or they might play the game in Minnesota. They still have not decided yet. Either way, I do think that the Chiefs are the better team here. I know Mike Evans comes back for Tampa Bay, and that's going to be a real big boost for Tom Brady. Hopefully, Julio Jones comes back in this game as well. They can't just keep relying on Russell Gage Jr. like they did last week when he had 11 catches and that almost game-winning touchdown at the end of the game. With that said, I do think that Leonard Fournette's going to do pretty good here as well. I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire has actually been having a solid year so far. Travis Kelce almost caught the game-winning touchdown last week, but the connection wasn't made in the end zone there, so they ended up losing to the Colts. I don't think they're going to lose two games in a row, even if it is on the road or in a neutral site. So I'm going to take the Chiefs here to win this game on Sunday night.
I like the Buccaneers. I like what they have, but it's something that's not clicking this year, and I don't know what it is. I think whatever it is that's going on with Brady personally is starting to affect the product on the field. He has some of the best receivers in the league, and that's not even an exaggeration there. And then you got Leonard Fournette. They're 2-1, so they're not terrible. The Chiefs, meanwhile, caught an L, and very much unexpected L last week. I know that they want to turn that around. I know that they need to turn that around. In particular, because right now they're still even with the Broncos, which is so ridiculous for me to even have to say. Patrick Mahomes with Travis Kelce has an answer, and I'm hoping this week that they really start utilizing having Sky Moore there. I'm going to keep pounding the drum for that, and I want it to happen. I think that the Chiefs can get it done in this particular game, because whatever it is that's going on with Brady that's creating distraction is such an issue that I don't know what's happening with this team. So I'm like you, in particular, especially if it's at a neutral site, got to take the Chiefs here. And last up, our Monday night matchup, we got the 2-1 Los Angeles Rams headed to San Francisco to face the 1-2 49ers. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, listen, in recent years, the 49ers have just owned the Los Angeles Rams. Even last year when the Rams won the Super Bowl, the 49ers beat them. But in this type of situation, especially on Monday night, Kyle Shanahan is not the greatest coach. We'll see what happens with Matthew Stafford. We'll see what happens with Cooper Kupp is going to be the best player in this game for sure. Jimmy G will have to have a great game this week after not having a good game last week. Last year when the Rams beat the 49ers in the playoffs was the first time in 2 years that the 49ers have lost to the Rams. I think this will probably be the second time they lose to the Rams, so I'm going to take the Rams in this one to win.
Listen, after last week's debacle and what I saw out of Jimmy G, just ridiculously stupid plays and the offense not getting off the mat, this team is in a horrible situation right now. I don't know that Trey Lance was the answer, but I damn sure know that Jimmy G is not the answer. And seeing the way that this team is playing, considering that he has players like Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, the team should not be struggling. They should not. They should not have caught that loss last week, and yet they did. Rams, meanwhile, Rams have looked pretty good. Best receiver in the league is still the Rams with Cooper Kupp. Always believe in what him and Matthew Stafford are doing. Defense is still solid. I know that the records always favors the 49ers, but the way that the 49ers are playing right now, and particularly the way they played last week with Jimmy G as the starter, I got to take the Rams in this game. Well, you guys, that's all our matchups. Dominic, give me one start and one sit in fantasy.
All right, well, my start here is going to be relatively obvious to some people who play fantasy. Others who just think that he's not going to be there, maybe they would think differently. So that's why I'm going to give it to you. James Robinson is the top 5 running back right now for fantasy in the NFL. He had his first 100-yard game of the year last year, including a 58-yard run on 4th down to the end zone against the Chargers. Travis Etienne, really, they thought he was going to take over. They thought he'd be the passing down back there, but he really hasn't done anything. James Robinson's been on the field for more than 70% of the snaps in every game, and I think he's going to continue to be the lead back there for right now. So if you have room on your roster, I would certainly start James Robinson. For somebody to sit, it's somebody coming back from an injury. We know that he's going to be back, but J.K. Dobbins, like I said, I think this game's going to be figured out on the ground just because I do think there's going to be a lot of weather. So that would lead me to want to start J.K. Dobbins here. I just do think that with him coming back off the major injury, they're not going to want to get him too much work right now, even if they are going to run the ball 80% of the time. It's going to be mostly Lamar Jackson in this game, I believe. Maybe some Kenyon Drake as well. So even though he is coming back in this game, I would sit him out for another week, and I would sit J.K. Dobbins this week.
Well, you guys, that's all the time that we have. Want to thank everybody again for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at TheNFLGirl320. Dominic, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at EnvisionFF.
You can read more of my thoughts on SheKnowsProFootball.com. Dominic, where can they read your work?
You can read my work on The Athletic, on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, and on SportsBookWire.com, presented by USA Today.
That's all the time we have, you guys. See you back here next week.